chat on, and then get to making some tea. Let's see. I am thinking I'm gonna go with the white peony, the wild grown white peony from Mimi Fine Teas. I feel like it's Mia Me. I don't know. I'm gonna call it Mimi. I never pronounce stuff correctly, but that's okay. I am a human. People get on me about that. They're like, "You didn't say that right." I'm like, "You mean I said it different because I have a different like regional dialect than you?" That's so funny. Morning, everybody rolling in. So I'm making some white peony tea. Almost just tried to dump from the bag into the pot. Some white peony. It smells nice. So what do you like to be at? 200, huh? That's pretty high. I'm gonna go with, so this one's giving instructions for Gung Fu style brewing. So sometimes you use really hot water, and then a super quick infusion time, like 1 minute or less, or 60 seconds, or well, that is a minute. But you know what I mean. But I think I'm gonna go 180 with this instead of the 200 because I let it sit longer. And if you go too hot too long, you'll end up pulling out a bunch of the tannins and more of the caffeine and not as much as the L-theanine as I would like. Good morning, everybody. Monday morning. It was a long, hard weekend. The family is back from big city funeral things, and I'm grateful that they made it home safe and sound. And we tried to go see the Aurora lights. They were all over here in Northeast Oregon. We live in like our house specifically. We're like in like this little like canyon bowl, and so we at like midnight drove to the top of our ridge because you can see all around in every direction because you're at the top of a mountain. Um, and we didn't physically see it, but our cameras did. But we got to see all the pictures that everybody saw from way, way earlier in the evening because we listened to the Weather Channel that said they'll be visible between 11 and 12:30. They were all like visible at 9:45, but like we weren't outside at the time, so it's okay. Um, you know, we might see him again. We're probably going to have way more solar storms in our life than we normally do, so there will be other chances. But yeah, so other than that, we just kind of, I don't know, it was a very like a weekend that didn't feel like a weekend, if that makes sense, because there was just so much like going on, right? That you didn't really get to rest, I would say. We did a little bit of a Mother's Day dinner yesterday thing with the family, and I don't know. But today I'm going to do some tractoring because I need to build out that last like raised off the ground just with layers garden bed. Because it is hot. It got up to 85 degrees yesterday. Now I do believe it'll still cool down some. I'm hopeful. Because it still is just May. And a lot of people right now are planning out where I'm at. They're planning out their tomatoes and stuff. I'm like, mm-mm. I'm waiting. I'm waiting probably until the last week of May and very first of June because sometimes you get like tricked, like it's going to be in the 80s again today, and you're like, oh, it's perfect tomato planting weather, and then next week you'll get like, maybe it won't freeze, but it'll drop down into like the low 40s and get like a torrential downpour, right? And then you'll just lose your plants. So I'm waiting, but they're all out in the greenhouse, and they're perfectly happy out there, plenty of sunshine and enjoying it, but they won't get beat to death by late May rains or things like that. So I'm waiting, but I do have a bunch of, I ordered some plants in like late winter, early spring, and they are showing up sometime this week. So, and they will go out because they're like more of a wild, like skullcap and stuff like that. They can handle the temperature dips. Um, But oh yeah, somebody said our last frost is April 6th. You must live in a completely different zone than me. Where I live, I've seen a lot of frost all the way at the end of May, depending on the weather. And I'm in 5A is what they call it, but I'm a little colder than that. That's just like the closest like town that I'm in. So yeah, we can get, and then it'll be like hot, crazy high desert summer. You know, it'll be 100 degrees plus all summer long. And then come September, what happens is it's hot as shit during the day, and then it jumps down to 50 degrees at night. And it makes you feel really, really, really cold because, you know, you've been accustomed to 110 plus degrees all summer, and then suddenly it's like 50 degrees at night. But it shocks your plants too. So September's about when we really have got to get stuff in and pulled in as soon as we can. It won't kill it, but come October, you know, it can snow. You know, it can be a hard freeze and things like that, you know. But yeah, I'm getting there. I'm going to have a lot of eggplant this year unintentionally. All the plants are just so healthy that I'm like, well, I guess I'm gonna plant all of you. But they're the little mini eggplants, and I'm excited for it. Have a lot of nightshades this year, so my main crops I think are gonna be eggplant, peppers, tomatoes, and potatoes. So it's just all nightshades, you know. But thankfully, I don't have an issue with nightshades. Um, but but yeah, so today I'm just going to build out the bed, which is just basically me taking the tractor and scraping up like 4-year-old cow shit from a pasture because they have all this ample pasture, but where we feed them at, they come in and they want to stand there. And they always look, I'm like, you guys make yourself look like a fucking feedlot cow. But, you know, even if we move it around, but what I do is I just let it just composts where it's at. And then I scrape the layer off in the spring and then they do it again, you know. But it's kind of cool because they are like inadvertently like stomping in, like making soil with their feet, like their alfalfa and stuff, and their own poop and things like that. And so they're like kind of turning this compost. And then by the time I scrape it off, um, this is the first year that I'll be using it in the garden, but because it's been about 3 years, it is just like fluffy, rich soil. And I'm like, all right, well, we're gonna go with that, you know. Yeah, my daughter's cards. Yeah, she's a very, very talented artist, and I told her that we could definitely like she could do like a greeting card set, like 2 sets, like one that's all like flowers, like wildflower type stuff, and then one that's like pine trees and mushrooms and you know what I mean, like so you could have like, oh, you can buy this set of 5 cards or this set of 5 cards. And I think that that would be kind of a cool thing to do because there's so many places online now, like even just something like Vistaprint where you could so basically what we would do is have her do her art on her cards, and my dad is like a high level photographer, so we could have him take like really high quality photos of it, and then you just upload that to the service, right? um, so we could get them printed in bulk because you know it'd be madness to try to paint all those by hands. But you know, and then we could put them in the shop. I think that would be a good idea, and especially if you sold them in sets of 5, right? um, because then it's like, you know, you get a whole greeting card set and they won't have any words on them, and I like that. You can't find that anymore in the stores these days, like just like a pretty picture that you can write whatever you want on the inside. Right? It's always like some huge Hallmark production on the top and on the inside, and then you have to read through them because you want to make sure that like you agree with what it's saying. At least that's what I do, you know. um but I think it would be something really cool for her to do. She's been an artist since she was really young. She's 17. Um, and that's crazy to think about because she's the age that I was when I was pregnant with her brother. It's wild to me, you know. Also, it makes me feel moderately old. And when she's 21, that's how old I was when I had her, you know. Um, yeah, I think that they would do really well. I think that the cards would be fantastic because she could just keep creating different themes of cards and sell them in packs, right? I mean, I guess you could sell them individually, but I think that would end up being less profitable actually, because you end up paying like handling fees and things like that as the seller, like for every one versus five at a time. And I don't know, I would be more apt to buy a pack of five like botanical cards than just an individual one, right? So you have them all. And I think that's just a really neat idea. And she's moderating right now, so she hears me talking about it. So everybody can say, yes, we want cards. Maybe she'll get inspired to do it. I know she seems interested in it. She liked reading all the comments everybody left on my Mother's Day post about it. But yeah, so I'm just kind of in the push to do some garden stuff, and I've been um, I've been working pretty hard on all things cheese. I you see her laughing in there. That's my mod right there. That's my daughter. But I've been working on, like, I have a goal of not wasting any milk this year. When you have milk animals, the milk really builds up. Even if you're only getting like a gallon a day, I mean, I don't know how often you go through a gallon of milk a day, but it adds up. And so I made like a huge 2 gallon batch of Sherv goat cheese, and it turned out really nice. And I used milk kefir, like homemade milk kefir, not the stuff from the store won't work, as the culture versus a lab culture, which is really cool because that means like our Sherv is like teeming with like billions of like gut health bacteria versus the one single culture that people use when they use a lab created culture. And it turned out really nice. And then they had to go to Seattle. And so my husband went to the fish market real early in the morning, and he brought back some like smoked salmon and things like that, you know. And I took that some of that salmon, and I made like a salmon dip with like a one of like 15 rolls of Sherv that I made just from the 2 gallons. Um, and it turned out really, really nice. And I'm like, yes. And the cool thing about Sherv is that you can freeze it. It freezes really well as a cheese without messing up its texture. Like when it thaws, it's the same cheese, and that's hard to do with cheese. So basically, I just make all this plain cheese, and then I can turn it into a dip. I can use it like cream cheese. I can use it. You could kind of maybe use it like sour cream if you added some cream to it to make it thinner, or like milk kefir back into it. But that's an idea that just popped in my head. But I'm gonna make all kinds of sweet desserts with it, and just, I don't know, just stash it. It's one way to have all the milk throughout the winter, you know. Well, that's sad. I'm sorry you're a vegan and can't enjoy tasty cheese and milk and things like that. You know, fig goat cheese is your favorite. Yes, yes, goat cheese is so nice. It's so nice. And when you make it, some people when they get goat cheese, they don't like it because it's real goaty and like extra sour. Um, a lot of that is because the goat milk is a little older when they start processing it. You know, so it's really smooth when you make it out of fresh milk, like fresh goat milk. It doesn't have that like real sour taste to it, you know. Um, but yeah, so it's all things cheese and milk kefir and farm cheese and this and this and that, and using it all up, you know, and it's pretty fantastic. I'm actually going to, um, yeah, a good pungent goat cheese is good too, right? There's definitely a time and a place for it. But I'm gonna dive into like making the El Ruderai yogurt. I don't know if you guys have heard of the El Ruderai. Now, milk kefir has El Ruderai in it. She has tons and tons of beneficial bacteria as well. But because there's so many beneficial bacteria, the El Ruderai or anything else doesn't really get into a huge amount, right? Because they're living in this like symbiosis, right? But I'm gonna start culturing my own El Ruderai yogurt, so it's nothing but El Ruderai for the most part. Um, and I'm excited about it. Like the studies and information coming out about like this bacteria are like mind blowing. And we all used to have it, and we don't have it anymore because we live in like a sanitized, industrialized, antibiotics. Everything kills it off, you know. And so I also have been falling down the microbiome rabbit hole for some time because there was a study that came out not that long ago, maybe about a year, maybe less, about the Irish traveler population. Which, hi, hey, my name is April. I'm an Irish traveler, and an American one, but one nonetheless. And about how our gut biome is completely different than like the average settled person, like a person who didn't grow up around tons of animals and traveling and stuff like that. We have like a non-industrialized gut, which means that like traveler populations have like wild bacteria in their gut that like the average person doesn't. It's like if we were still living like nomadic wild humans, and so I kind of wonder about that for myself and looking at like the microbiomes that they did find in the study, and like one thing is like the high L. reuteri levels, right? And so I'm just falling into it because every time I look at like a health issue I have, it's directly correlated to like separation from the land and like no longer like living how like my particular ancestors might have lived, and like what we would have ate a lot of, and like how we would have functioned. And every time I lean into it, I'm like, huh, got a little better. And so I'm just falling into it hard, you know. But yeah, I hey, look at that. Somebody spotted me. I just found your channel yesterday, fellow Irish traveler living in Ireland, Ergo Brock. Yeah, you know, and it's weird because what's funny is like when you're not, like when you're an American traveler, like when you're an Irish traveler, like, oh, are you an Irish person that travels? I'm like, yeah, that's what it is. Right, like we're not some like super ancient culture that's like indigenous to Ireland or anything like that, you know, but nobody knows, you know, nobody knows. And when they do know, they're real fucking assholes about it because, of course, you know, they're racist and think that we're all just like gypsies that scam people, right? Um, but I'm really interested, you know, and I actually ended up writing the institute that did that study on gut health on Irish travelers, because when you look it up online, it's nothing but like kind of like sciencey blog posts about talking about the study they did, but it's not the actual study. I'm like, can I please see the data? I was like, hi, I would actually like to see what bacteria is supposed to be in my gut, but like nothing. And I thought that I was going to have to like kind of like hem and haw to get it. And they're like, oh, no problem. Here's the original study. I'm like, oh, thank you so much. Um, and so, because I wonder if I work on like, I don't know if I have that bacteria in me still or if I did, but also what would happen if I worked on restoring that bacteria. Right. Now, a lot of it's just from living in like big communities and being around animals and traveling to different regions, which no matter who you are or what culture you're from, the more you travel, the more different your microbiome is because everywhere you go, there are different levels of bacteria. Right. That's why eating local is so impactful because you're eating like the bacteria from your bioregion and you get all kinds of like messages and things like that. But I'm all about it. Because I really do believe that like a lot of our issues come from disconnection from the land and like culture and things like that. But also like what it boils down to like directly is like, is it just a disconnection from a microbiome? Right, because everything's sanitized, everything's washed, everything is preserved, which acts like an antibiotic in your gut. Right, like all of our water is stripped beyond clean into dead. Right, and I kind of wonder how much of that like impacts us. Like there are people right now who are watching this. There's only 177 of you here, but there's probably a fair amount of you that are terrified to eat wild berries without washing them. Right. And so we don't get the soil based bacteria, the local microbiome. We don't get any of that stuff. You know, there are people that are afraid to eat things out of their garden without washing them. And I get it. Some places there are diseases from like slugs and rats and things like that. You know, use nuances. But the average person probably won't die if they eat a tomato unwashed off of their garden plant. You know, or like some blackberries or something like that. And, but yeah, it's, anyhow, I don't know. I think it's really interesting the things that like interact with our health and like how much is absent and like how easy it would be to improve our health by just looking at the bacteria we intake or how often we spend outside or when's the last time we actually touched dirt. Like dirt on the ground and the earth, right, and things like that. I think it's really important. A lot of people are saying they definitely eat wild food without washing them. That's awesome. I just say that because like I've made posts about like why I don't wash my wild strawberries or this or that, and like have seen people lose their fucking mind about like how filthy things are. Like why aren't you washing the plant that you harvested before you tincture? I'm like, well, first of all, it's not dirty because nature isn't dirty. You've just been made to believe that. Second of all, alcohol kills bacteria on contact, so it's kind of moot point, you know. Um, but it's very, yeah, it's just crazy how many people are terrified of it. You know, for every person that says that they aren't afraid, there's probably 200 plus people that are. You know, especially people that didn't grow up in the wild or in the countryside or anything like that. Like they spent most of their life in the city. They can be really be made to be afraid of this stuff, and it's not even their fault. It's not even your fault if you're afraid of this type of stuff. You've just been told that everything is dirty, everything needs to be washed, everything is scary. Do you have your Purell? Like, you know, and that stuff, like, we even know that overwashing your hands and using hand sanitizer can cause diseases because you are no longer intaking your natural bacteria, which is giving your immune system messages and all kinds of stuff. I'm not saying to, like, go drag your hands across the fucking subway seat and then not wash your hands. But it's crazy how terrified people are in general of, like, just their own body and like microbiomes in the world, you know. Um, but yeah, I don't know. So I'm making some yogurt, all that stuff. Um, you know. Um, but yeah, and it's, you know, some people say I eat wild, but I wash store bought, and washing store bought is understandable because it is being grown in monocrops. A lot of places use human feces to fertilize crops. They use, oh man, I did you know? This is rough for me, and it's one of the reasons that like I make sure that like I'm either raising my own pigs or I buy them from a farmer that, you know, that I can see how they're taking care of their animals and things like that. But so uh, there's this thing called corn season in the wastewater treatment place where like all the corn you eat just comes out because it's not digested, and they basically separate it from your feces as it comes through the treatment plant, right? Did you know farmers buy this corn and feed it to their pigs? Oh God! I was like, God, Dad, why did you tell me that? Because he worked, he's worked for the city for like 45 plus years, and a big part of that is with like the water treatment plants and all that kind of stuff. And he's like, yeah, there's like a dedicated truck out there that we just scoop the corn into, and then the farmer comes and gets it. And I'm like, which farmer? He's like, all the people from Hermiston. And I'm like, okay, but I mean, most of the time we're very select about like where we buy pork from, and I don't know if it happens at other wastewater treatment facilities. But I'm like, holy fuck, that is so bad. It's so bad. And so when I say we're separated from, like, I know the concept that they're eating it and then and it can't pass through, but and I was like, God damn it, Dad. Thanks for putting that in my brain, you know. But it's just, you know, but I like high quality pork is very good. It's actually really high in thiamine, which is vitamin B1, which is super good for like your mental health and physical health. It's one of the really only like high sources of it, but they need to be fed correctly. Like it's probably not very present in like the abused feedlot pigs, right? But you'd find it in pasture raised pork and all that kind of stuff, you know. Um, Somebody said I tried the brewer's yeast infusion and almost passed out from the taste. Is there another way to consume it and some sort of cookies would be effective? It tastes like broth. Maybe your taste buds are off. I mean, I guess you could capsule it, but I really like to do the infusion method because then you're getting rid of the phytoestrogens at the bottom of it. But you could try making that and then just like adding like a couple, like freezing it, right? And then adding a couple cubes to like your chicken soup or something like that because it really does genuinely just taste like a tangy chicken broth, you know? One of the reasons I am vegan. Well, if it helps you feel any better about being vegan, they often take the human waste itself and spread it on fields. So you're not there's just human shit on everything that you're eating when it comes from like monocrop stuff, and they do it in organic stuff too. It's a huge thing that's been happening for a long time. So like you don't get away from like the disgust of human just because you're eating plants only. You know, it's a thing. More people die from eating lettuce than they do from meat. It's fucking wild. Like the level of like store bought lettuce is like dangerous as fuck. It really is. Like even washing it sometimes doesn't cut it. You know. Um, Yeah, still not vegan. I love myself enough to know that my life is worth the death it takes to truly sustain it, and I also am aware of the farming industry enough to know that you can't escape death. Like animals are being killed on your behalf, and people are being worked like slaves on your behalf, and all that kind of stuff. There's no escaping it. In fact, I think that you do more, you're more helping like animals if you care about them, if you support ethical farming practices, because uh, big ag doesn't give a fuck, right? Like you might not be buying their meat, but you're buying their vegetables, right? Which is a byproduct of their meat production. But also, when you don't support small ethical farmers who are like doing like amazing work to like take care of animals and make sure that heritage breeds stay alive and all that kind of stuff, and making sure that the land is healthy and all that, that farm goes under and big ag comes in and buys them out. You know, and that's not helping anybody or the planet or anything like that. You know, yeah, you know, and so it's very I don't know, but I don't even blame people because it's a symptom of disconnection, right? Like if you didn't grow up hunting, if you didn't grow up on the land, if you didn't grow up farming or ranching and like seeing how people like genuinely care about their animals when they take care of them, it's easy for you to believe that like there are people right now who believe that sheep are skinned for their wool. Like PETA tells people that shit all the time, and it's hilarious. I'm like, what the fuck? No, you have to shave these sheep or they die, right? Like they need you to have a relationship with them, and you just shear them, right? And then their wool grows back. My favorite thing, because we have a lot of sheep around here, my favorite thing is watching the sheep get sheared, and they hire people that are really good at it, and it takes them like 3-4 minutes, and they're done, right? And then the sheep is happy and running and bouncing and kicking because it has all that wool off of it, right? They're happy when it happens, you know. But yeah, you know, and so that kind of stuff just always makes me giggle because it's just a symptom of disconnection, right? But they worked hard at it, so don't even beat yourself up over it, you know. But yeah, that'll get my I'll get some people angry throughout this video and stuff like that. But but yeah, I don't know. So today we are doing garden stuff, and my husband's catching up on a ton of customer service because you know throughout the weekend and such, at a funeral. So if you're waiting for us to get back to you through customer service, it's just the two of us, right? And he's gonna tackle that today, so he should be caught up by the end of the day. But somebody said I used to do accounting for a water company, and yes, we sold quote unquote biosolids by the ton. Yuck. Yeah, yeah, man. It is real close to Soylent Green time. If you haven't watched that movie, you know, because it's a really, really old movie. The funniest thing is when, like, a year or two ago, some random vegan soy milk company came out with some drink called Soylent. I'm like, holy fuck, did y'all never heard of the movie Soylent Greens? So it's like a movie where like people are like, it's people. Where like basically they discover that like as people die, they're like turning the people into food and feeding people, you know? And I'm like, you guys named that shit Soylent and didn't do like any research about what that word is linked to. Another one that is funny as shit to me is we always have like the random free TV weather channel on in the background. It's just noise, right? And so they throw ads on there every now and then. And there's this one for there's like it's like a company that resells fancy clothing or something like that, and they named it Guilt, like Guilt, and I don't know if they know this or not, but a gilt is a female pig that's never fucked. And I was like, what the fuck did they name it? Did nobody did nobody Google what that word is? Like, does that word exist? Like, you literally did you name your clothing company like Virgin Pig on purpose? Cause it's genius if you did, and if you didn't, it's fucking hilarious. I was like, what the fuck did they name that clothing company? You know, um, but anyhow, that shit's funny to me, and I have a different sense of humor than the average person. So there's that. Um, anyhow, I'm gonna get started with my day. It's been a fun Monday morning. I will okay, so let me back up. I almost jumped off. I will be back obviously tomorrow morning. Friday's the herbal Q&A. Where was I going with that? Oh, if you'd like to support my capacity to sit here and piss off people probably who don't eat meat and make fun of names that people don't know and just generally be a human and talk about gut health and all kinds of random things, you could consider becoming a member. It's a way to throw me a couple bucks a month. Supports my capacity to keep a roof over our head, tea in my pot, teach freely, be here with you. You do get early access to videos if I happen to upload them early. I'm also starting to do this thing to where, and I've only done like 2 tiny bits of it, but I miss being able to like share to stories like random things that I'm doing, because the algorithm took that away. Like YouTube doesn't allow story shares anymore. It's either just videos, shorts, or community posts. But if I just post that stuff to everybody, it'll fuck up my algorithm. It'll like destroy like my viewability for my other videos. So for community members, I'm doing like random short clips of things and little short videos of just my life, of just things that I'm up to in a day or something that I thought was neat that I wanted to share. So there is going to start being that, but it's never going to be like if I'm showing you how to do something that is always made public on the weekends, right? So like if I upload a video early during the week, if I get around to it, don't even worry about it if you can't become a member because it becomes visible on the weekends, right? So that was a little change that I made. If you would also like to support my capacity to do all this stuff, you could consider checking out the apothecary. I make something for everybody. I've got my synergism capsules, mouth mud, pit goop. I've got all of my books, all that kind of stuff. You can use the one-time code TEATIME, TEATIME, to save 10% off anything you like to call home in the shop. If you can't do any of that, or even if you can, it is super, super helpful to like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications, and share. Sharing is like really impactful because it helps other people realize that they're smart enough to do this too, that they can learn herbalism freely, that they can just be a real human while they're learning herbalism or even teaching it. It also helps get my work out there, tells the algorithm that I'm worth showing to people and all that kind of stuff. So it's really, really helpful. And thank you so much for hanging out with me during this morning's tea time, and I will see everybody tomorrow morning. Bye.